Welcome everyone to episode 55 to the Chris Perish podcast. My name is Chris Perish, and I just want to welcome everybody along for the ride, especially the viewers. Sierra Suku02 on Instagram Live. That's right, the Chris Perish podcast is now on Instagram Live, so go check that out as well as all the people from the X, that Twitch, the YouTube, and Facebook. I appreciate that. If you're in any of those and you haven't, make sure that you hit that like, that subscribe, that follow. And if by chance you're feeling very, very happy today, make sure that you share. Please share. But also, if you're here, let's have fun, be active, comment, let's have a good time, engage. That's what we're all about here at the Chris Perish podcast. Also, I want to give a big thanks to rogueenergy.com, where if you want to go and get your beautiful flavors of hydration or energy supplements, make sure you go to rogueenergy.com. Just at the promo code PERISH, P-E-R-I-S-H, at checkout. Save yourself 10%. My pick of the week is the strawberry kiwi. And then also I want to give a shout out to Turnbuckle Studios right there. And if you look at the link below, you can see in nice little baby blue over there, affiliationprogram.my.canva.site. That is right. Affiliationprogram.my.canva.site. That is something you can go and check out. If you want to get into podcasting and you want to say, hey, I appreciate what you guys do over at Turnbuckle Studios and in the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, you can be a part of it too. And all you have to do is click on that site to get started. Speaking of getting started, I think that's exactly what we should do. But first, let's give a big hello to good old friend Bobby Stats right here. And coming, good afternoon. Good afternoon too. And he said, I just liked your video, friend. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Bobby, for doing that. And people, if you want to find out a little bit more about just what you can do, use Bobby as that example of liking and sharing all that, as he is someone who does that on a regular basis, and we appreciate that very much. Now, this is what we're all yearning for. I screwed up that word, but it's the pro wrestling talk, right? That's why we're here. That's what we want to do. So let's talk a little bit of pro wrestling. Actually, let's talk about women's wrestling, shall we? Because Nick Aldis made a splash just the other day on SmackDown when he introduced something that the fans, the internet community, have been wanting for a very long time. And guess what? Yours truly is no exception. He has introduced the WWE Women's United States Championship. Bobby, it is episode 50, and we're going to have a blast. You might want to call the 50 after you watch the Chris Perish podcast, episode 50. But right now, we're talking WWE Women's United States Championship. We finally, on the main roster in WWE, have a mid-card championship for the women, which is an absolute amazing idea. And I think we can thank the absolute success that is the NXT Women's North American Championship as an example of just getting that foot in the door, because Kalani Jordan, as that inaugural champion, did very well as the women's very first mid-card champion in WWE. So Nick Aldis took notice and decided, how can I make my impact on Friday nights? And we got ourselves another championship, but it's not just any championship. It's a mid-card championship for the women. Raphael Weeb 20, thank you for joining on Instagram Live. I appreciate that. We're talking a little bit about women's pro wrestling and the introduction to the Women's United States Championship right now, and just the impact. No pun intended to, obviously, TNA, but yeah, this is very important. This is a very big step towards just WWE and where the direction is. Right now, we see a division with the women that is just growing and growing and growing. Look no further than NXT and just look at the names, and not just any names, but some big names like Stephanie Becker, or we're getting Azaria, formerly known as Delta, and we got Julia, and we're seeing Jordan Grace pop up more and more as the rumors circulate whether or not she is going to join WWE once her TNA contract expires. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because we're also talking about, the people within SmackDown that aren't in that world title situation, like the Mia Yims, Michin, Piper Niven, Chelsea Green, and then you got the likes of Blair Davenport, as Bobby is just saying. Michin or Blair Davenport would be great as the first ever Women's United States champion. And then you're also looking at the possibilities of, does maybe Bayley take a step back and help kind of grow another crop of talent, and maybe she takes a step back. Maybe you let Naomi kind of go after that world title for a bit, and Tiffany Stratton, Nia Jax, and then you also have returning people like Carmella, Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, just to name a few. And then there's the ones on Raw. So we have a division, and Bobby's even coming in saying Shotzi, yes, and then also the possibility of adding Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill to that mix as well once they are no longer tag team champions. So that's a good amount of women to not only build a world title around, but now a mid-card championship, United States championship, and to add more storylines, to add more time devoted to women's wrestling, which I think is very important. As we have Weston King Sucks joining us on Instagram. I'm not saying Weston King Sucks. That's just the handle name. So don't get confused by what I said, everyone. But I think this is just a fantastic step forward to not only women's wrestling, but also for the WWE. And it's going to be very, very fun to watch the progression of how not only they introduce, whether it's a tournament, whether it's a battle royal, whether it's something different, maybe, just maybe, there is going to be a specialized match to help introduce this. Who knows? Chris Best is saying, I was also one of the ones that was against a women's mid-card title, but after Nick Aldis' announcement and seeing how Hunter books titles, I'm all for it. Well, and that's something that I think is very, very important to watching WWE today now, opposed to just a few years ago. It's the trust we have on watching the product and where it goes towards, as not only do we have more faith in who runs the company, we have more faith on being patient with the product. And because of all of that, when we hear something like a new championship, we don't have a reaction like the Universal title or the 24/7 championship. No, we have more excitement and just giddiness when things like the Women's North American Championship come out, and then also now with the WWE Women's United States Championship. And then there's the elephant in the room. Well, what does Raw do? Does Raw introduce the Women's Intercontinental Championship? And I think the answer is yes, ultimately. I think that's exactly what we're going to see. Chris Best coming in. I was against it, but I was one of the thought that there would be too many titles. And we'll get to why I think that won't be an issue. But also, first off, let's continue with the Intercontinental Championship. We have also a great group of women on Raw as well. Whether you look at Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai as your women's title competitors, you also have on roster the Raquel Rodriguez's. You also have the Zelina Vegas. You also have the Lyra Valkyrias. You also have the Katana Chance, Kaden Carter, Sonya Deville, Zoe Stark, and Shayna Baszler. And then, Becky Lynch could be coming back anytime now. And I'm sure, and Natalya, I can't forget Natalya. And that's only some. Kiana James, when she comes back from injury, now there's something worth vying for all these other women who might be on the outside looking out, especially if your concern on Raw was if the women got less time, because Raw, for the short time being, went back to 2 hours. Now, I can agree with that because they did. And it had a lot to do with storylines and the lack thereof for women on Raw. Now that they have what's expected to be another women's mid-card championship, and then this goes into the next topic, which is Raw and SmackDown officially moving to 3 hours in 2025, we're going to see that time being awarded to these women and for these championships to help make these titles matter, feel important, and something worth caring about when they headline a Monday Night Raw, a Friday Night SmackDown, a PLE of whatever. On top of this, now that we have a mid-card championship for the women on SmackDown, one heavily expected for Raw, we can only assume that possibly in 2025, maybe even 2026, but the idea of Evolution 2 being a thing again and seeing the second ever all-female WWE PLE. So this is stuff to look forward to. This is a lot of stuff to be very excited for. And I want to know in your comments who you think the very first inaugural United States Women's Champion will be. I know Bobby Badito, you said Blair Davenport or Meechin. Everyone, please let us know. In fact, if you want to take the time to go and check out and follow and subscribe to the Chris Perish podcast on Spotify, you'll find out that this week's question of the week will be, who do you think will be the first ever United States Women's Champion? So that is going to be something that I think you definitely want to keep your eye out moving forward, but it's also going to be something that you're going to get very invested in as well. Also now, let's also look at the non-wrestling aspect and just think about what this championship represents to women, because now all of a sudden you're seeing another championship, whereas hypothetically, say let's use Meechin as an example. Say she is the first United States Women's Champion, and they want her to go to an autograph session, or just an appearance of some sort, or she's throwing out a pitch to a baseball game. She's going to be carrying around this championship, and if you're a little girl in the crowd, you're seeing just another woman who is a champion, and then that champion brings you towards WWE, and then now that introduces you to the possibility of being a pro wrestler move in life. But then down the road, you're going to see, your Walmarts, your stores carry replica foam titles, or you can buy the replica titles on the shop. But now all of a sudden you have an opportunity to, have a variation of a title strictly made for women. So it's just another opportunity there, and just another thing that you can use to empower women, and women can use to empower future women and girls. And I think that's just such a big thing moving forward. It's just that inspiration that you're going to see, and that identification, because once you see a championship of any kind and you see somebody like you wearing one, whether it's women, whether it's men, whether it's any other gender you identify as, it's very empowering, and it gives you that hope that there is an opportunity for you down the road in life. And I think that's just very important for anyone. But now that we see a United States championship for the women, I think that just opens the doors in so many different facets. And I think that's just going to be such a positive and reassuring thing for women, and even just for everyone moving forward. So congratulations to WWE for finally taking the step towards a mid-card championship for the women. I think we can all agree that this was an excellent idea. Now let's just make sure that this isn't a laughing stock in 6 months. Let's make sure that this is one of the best decisions you've made in the last how many years. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that. And I will echo that to what we assume will be the future Women's Intercontinental Championship. So yeah, like that's going to be just a lot of fun to watch and to be patient to see how they grow and how they make these championships relevant, and how WWE handles not only these championships, but, are we going to get more feuds, more storylines, more time devoted to women's wrestling? And I think this is a great way of expecting that answer to be yes. And I'm very much excited for it. And I can only imagine if you're a female watching this, you'd be agreeing with it too. I don't know, but let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know. Just let me know. I'm very open. I'm very curious to see what people think about the Women's United States and a future Women's Intercontinental Championship. So yeah. Now, if you're wondering, okay, well, you're asking us, who do we pick? Who are you picking? And I'm gonna pick for the first ever United States Women's Championship. I'm going with Piper Niven. And then next week we'll see if on episode 51, 51 episodes, if the Raw Intercontinental Championship is announced on Monday. I will talk about that then. Hey, we're talking about giving more time allotted to women. So I'm going to do the same thing here on this podcast. Once the Intercontinental Championship for the women is announced, I will then talk about it more in depth on that episode. So, yeah. But yeah, if you're anybody on Instagram like Mark Anthony Handley, who just joined, let me know who you pick in the comments as your first ever United States Women's Champion for the WWE. And then anybody watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, or even the X, let me know as well. All right. Now, I even mentioned earlier that one of the reasons why I'm very positive about this decision is that Raw and Smackdown are moving to 3 hours in 2025. And it's very important to note that they mentioned Raw going to 3 hours because we all know Raw is going to Netflix starting January of 2025. And the one thing we weren't sure was just how long was an episode of Raw going to be. They don't have a time where they have to be done by. There's no cut time. There's no time limit on the show. So I thought it was very, very much an interesting thing when we heard the 3 hour mark allotted to Monday Night Raw. Obviously, this news was broken it was broken to me by PWI Insider, or PW Insider. Sorry, that is who I read it from. They might not have been the first person, but that is the first person I read it from. As Chris Best is saying he's going to give it to Chelsea Green. I think she would be great parading around with that title. And then Bobby coming in saying Apollo Crews and Giovanni could get more time on SmackDown too. Yes. And that's exactly where I was going to go. Raw and SmackDown, 3 hours, 2025. This, I believe, is the first time SmackDown will permanently go to 3 hours. And then Raw will be going back to the 3 hour mark. And now that you have additional titles. You now have an additional hour. So now we have additional time that you can give to your talent, to your championships, to your stories, to the betterment of the product. And I think that's going to be a very important thing, as Bobby's saying, as examples. Talent on the men's side, like Apollo Crews and Giovanni Vinci, could get more TV time. And then we also could get more time, obviously, for the women now with the US Women's title and expected to be the Intercontinental. And then also, too, with the rise of the tag team divisions, whether it's on the Raw side, SmackDown side, even on the women's side, I think it's very much an open discussion that, there's going to be a lot more time allotted to tag team wrestling of all kinds. And I think that is a great thing as well. I don't think I'm speaking out of term here when I'm saying all the championships in WWE right now, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, or even NXT, all seem to matter, and they seem very important to win. Now, if you ask me what I do view as the bottom one, yes, it is the Raw tag. I don't think anybody is going to argue with that. And it happens just to be for the fact that they're not being defended or being active enough. We're seeing a lot of activity for the women's tag titles and for the SmackDown titles. We're seeing a lot of LA Knight US. We're seeing a lot of Braun Breaker in the Intercontinental Championship. We're seeing a lot of Gunther, Cody Rhodes, and so, and then obviously the Nia Jax and Liv Morgan stuff. We're seeing a lot of that representation from those championships. I think Finn Balor and JD McDonough, not as much. And even if that's the case, we're seeing JD, we're seeing Finn Balor a lot. It was stuff with Damian Priest from an individual thing. And I think we can all agree that even though we wanted to see that story being finished or being told, and we wanted to see the fallout to all that, we also knew that he was one half of a tag team champion, and those tag titles should have been defended. In fact, maybe it would have made sense for Damian Priest to cost Judgment Day those tag titles before you get to that big match between the two. But who knows? All I know is we get 3 more hours of WWE on Mondays and Fridays, which means that the Raw Patrol and the SmackDown Security Detail are just going to be longer episodes. So if you're watching Turnbuckle Studios every Monday and Friday, make sure you're checking out Raw Patrol. Or not the Raw Patrol. Yeah, Raw Patrol. Sorry. I've been kind of gearing myself on Paw Patrol because my kid is now 1. Wife makes him watch Miss Rachel, and I want to get him to something else. So Raw Patrol might have to be that alternate. So yeah. But by no means was there ever a comparison to the two of the shows. Yeah, no, there was never a reason to connect those. But yeah. So longer Monday Night Raw, longer Friday Night SmackDown means longer episodes on Monday and Friday for Turnbuckle Studios, which will be showing you a video, aka a video calendar, of what to expect on Turnbuckle Studios this week. So yeah, I want to hear everybody's thoughts about, just the WWE extending Raw and SmackDown to that 3-hour mark going into 2025. With USA being the home of SmackDown in the US, Netflix being for Raw. Obviously, if you're in Canada, everything's on Netflix because it's simple. It's like the link trees for us. We kept it simple. And then if anybody's out of those 2 countries, let me know where you guys get your WWE product and what is it on. So yeah, that, everyone, was in my eyes the big 2 to talk about. So right now I'm going to show you that video of what to expect with Turnbuckle Studio and what's coming up. So check it out.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday nights you get the Locker Room Breakdown at 7 p.m., followed by the Raw Patrol at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursday we get a variety stream with the Boar's Nest at 8 p.m. Friday we game again with Unleashed, the Jessica Wilde story at 7 p.m. Following the game, join us for the SmackDown security detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday be sure to catch the Chris Perish podcast at 12:15 p.m. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day.
Also, now that we're back, I want to give everyone a quick shout out and a thank you for everyone who tuned into yesterday's episode 49 of the Chris Perish podcast, where we featured local pro wrestler Kamikaze. Now, that was a part 1 of the interview, and there will be a part 2 down the road. So if you like part 1, be sure to check back for part 2, as it's not only fun to catch up with an old friend, but also, just to hear a lot about the stories, because let's face it, who didn't appreciate the immaturity to the reason why his name is what it is, and it had something to do with the male genitalia. But if you, by chance, weren't able to catch it, make sure you go back and check out all of my socials on that link tree, whether it's the Facebook, the YouTube, the Twitch, all that good stuff, where you can go back and check out the replay. And as of later today, it will be on Spotify as well. Bobby Benito's coming in saying, who would you like to see in the Iron Survivor match for NXT Deadline for men's and women's on December 7th? Well, I believe it's Sol Ruka and Cora Jade as a qualifier for the women's, if I'm not mistaken. And I want Sol Ruka not only to be in the match, but I think she should be the winner of the Iron Survivor match. Let me know who you'd like. But in terms of who I could see being involved in that match, I think Zarya would be a great person to have in that match. I think Sol Ruka would be great. Jada Parker. Kalani Jordan as well. I think Kalani Jordan's stock has definitely risen over the last, few months, ever since she won that ladder match to win the inaugural Women's North American Championship. I just think she's been on a roll, and the confidence you definitely have seen has grown with her. Another person I think I would put in is maybe JC Jane. And Bobby, if I'm not mistaken, is it 5 people or is it 6 in the Iron Survivor? Let me know what that answer to, because I don't remember if it's 5 or 6. I want to say it's I really don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, Sol Ruka for 1, Kalani Jordan for 2, Jada Parker 3, JC Chain 4, Zarya 5. As okay, you have said you're not sure. Ava hasn't announced it yet. Okay, well, I'll go with that for 5. And if I'm gonna put in a 6, Bobby Sanders, Jordan Grace would be nice. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be. You know what? Chris Best saying it's usually 5. So okay, so if we have 5, then that would be my 5. I think. I don't know. There's just a lot. Like it's really hard to assume what they're gonna pick, because there's just a really big variety of women that you can choose. NXT has a very large amount of opportunities, and Bobby's saying for men's, I'd put Javion Evans. Do we know what the qualifier match so far for the men's is on that one? Because I know that there's been one announced so far. I just do not remember what it is. Oh, sorry, I was actually incorrect. Oh, no. Yeah, Sol Ruka and Cora Jade, and the men's qualifiers, Wesley and Cedric Alexander. So I think they're going to put Wesley in that match. I personally would pick Cedric Alexander, and I think I would have one of the Radicals, maybe Trey Miguel, cost Wesley, because I still think that the Trey Miguel Wesley stuff needs to be there. I don't know. But also Wesley has stuff going on with almost everyone at this point. So Cedric Alexander, I think, would be a nice little shot. I'd also add Sean Spears in there just for the sole point. I think you need adding a veteran who can really captain that match and really organize it and structure that, I think would be an absolute fantastic add. And I think who doesn't want to see Sean Spears just around an opportunity to be a champion in any shape, way, or form? So I got Sean Spears there. I'm going to choose Cedric Alexander, so that would be mine. Javion Evans, yeah, I think that's a safe play there as well. If you really want to make things interesting, you could put Ethan Page in there, and I wouldn't bat an eye. But I think the overall one, I mean, how could you go against Obafemi at this opportunity? From my understand, this gets you a chance to go after the NXT Women's and Men's Championship. So, yeah, put in Obafemi, and I think Obafemi is your eventual winner on this one, and that's his way of moving into that NXT title picture. So, yeah, that would be my pick. But I think this has just been a really interesting dynamic and match thing, because we've seen what I believe now this is the third installment of Iron Survivor, and it's gonna, I mean, perhaps Bobby, I don't know about you, but I would love to see them just be moved up to the main roster. In fact, I kind of want to see Gallus and Drew McIntyre somehow connect and become a group on Raw or SmackDown. And this could help Drew McIntyre kind of get back into that World Heavyweight title picture. I really like Gallus. I think Gallus is really good. And I think right now, I don't know. I just think maybe they've outgrown NXT. Not to say that, NXT, you can be too big for NXT, but I think they've been there. They've been tag champions. I just don't see anybody becoming a world champion there. So I think there's just other guys that they want instead. So, yeah, I mean, I think I just move them up at this point. Bobby, I appreciate that. I mean, I think it's just something that over time, you're just I think Gallus just is missing that one star to kind of run the show. And they can be that, it's almost like Gallus is a different, it almost feels like they can just be a modern day version of the Shield, but you want that Triple H kind of in front, and just put Drew McIntyre as the guy, kind of like what that early expectation of the Shield was supposed to do, be henchman for CM Punk. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe, and then that could be something that Drew McIntyre has his henchman in Gallus. I don't know, just kind of my idea. Something to help Drew McIntyre down the road. Yeah. But I do like the Iron Survivor match. It's something that it's, like I said, the third installment of this match now, and it's different. It gives, I think, NXT its own identity because it doesn't have to, do. War Games in a way did until it went to the main roster. It's like, who would have expected War Games to hit the main roster before Catalyst? I don't think I had that in my bingo cards. But just it. We have Kyle Sebastian joining us here on Instagram Live. Welcome, Kyle Sebastian. If you know what, this is actually something I'll talk about. Kyle Sebastian and I go way back, and I think the world of him as not only a professional wrestler, but a mind in professional wrestling. And this is a great segment because WWE has introduced the ID program. And growing up, maturing in pro wrestling, I've always thought two men always should have been in WWE, one being Bobby Sharp and the other being Kyle Sebastian. I think the world of both of those guys. And if you're down in the Lethbridge area, make sure you're checking out Kyle Sebastian and Pure Power Wrestling and that multi-time world champion down there. Very, very much a decorated wrestler there. So that's kind of my segue into the WWE ID program. And WWE has announced some people in for that program. Basically, from what I understand, WWE is signing people from the independents, and they're going to help finance their growth and development in the way of giving them a road towards the WWE. Now, they've also taken companies, whether it's Seth Rollins, Black and Brave, whether it's the Nightmare Academy, or there's Booker T School. I think there's one or two more. And they're kind of using that as kind of the main places to go. I think there's going to be others ones I can maybe, if you're going to ask, is there ever going to be a Canadian one? Well, I like to think of Maple Leaf Wrestling, Scott D'Amore's company, starts up. I would assume that could be the one. As a local guy, I wouldn't hate it if something like a Love Wrestling or Real Canadian Wrestling do it as well. You got the CWE that they always have. Their group in Winnipeg. Winnipeg Pro Wrestling got real good reviews from Matt Cardona not too long ago about, how they not only run but treat their talents. So there's a very large and healthy mix of independent pro wrestling in not only Canada, but the United States, all over the world. So this WWE ID program to help kind of give a pathway to a scene where for the longest amount of time, there was not a clear way of how do I get to a WWE. And that was always the stressful part about becoming a wrestler, was that you just didn't know. And now that could shape you. That could make you a better performer. That could make you a better person. But at the same time, it can go either way as well. It really all depends on the person there. So now that WWE has acknowledged the fact that there is an independent wrestling scene, how do we bring them to us? How do we, do that? Now we have that developmental system that was NXT. We have the performance center. We have the tools. We have the facility. But do we have the scouting pool? And I think that's exactly what WWE ID is going to be. As Bobby Seth's coming in saying, this WWE idea is a nice opportunity for indie wrestlers to get to WWE. And that's, I think, exactly just the whole point in a nutshell, is that WWE is a business and they want to find out who they could have to help their business. And, sometimes thinking about business is, yes, thinking about, okay, who's the right now? Who are the right people right now to carry this company towards, these goals? And then, okay, do we have acts from years past that we can bring back to help kind of establish the people right now? because as time goes, the president right now is going to be asked to do the same for the up-and-coming talent. And that is where you see like your Austin Theories, your Dominic Mysterios, your Rhea Ripley's, who's a legit star right now, but she's still quite young, among others. And then you got to think the group after that and the group after that. And this is just thinking big to the utmost degree. So Bobby is coming and saying your friend Gigi Ray would be nice in WWE. Absolutely. She is, I believe, getting an opportunity in MLW right now, and I'm very happy, very proud that she's there, because she is a phenomenal performer. She's a phenomenal human being, and I'm very happy for her. I can go on a tangent of who I think locally would go, but that's just a personal opinion. Obviously, I want everyone that I care about to be a part of that. And if WWE, you want to throw one of those my way, I'm happy to accept it. So if everybody's watching and they want to go hashtag Chris Perish for WWEID, I mean, I'm not going to say, can you do it? I'm just going to say I would be appreciative if you did. But that's nor here nor there. I'm just appreciative for the time that we have right now, and that is talking an abundance of what's going on in pro wrestling, what we have going on, WWEID, whether it's NXT, Iron Survivor, whether it's WWE Women's Championships like the United States title, what we think of the Intercontinental Championship. Or it's this comment by Chris Best. I wonder if OVW could get involved. If so, I would love if they added Hollywood Haley J. I think it's going to be something we see down the road. We're going to see a lot of activity on this down the road. We all know that WWE had their eyes on her in the past. There were issues that kind of stagnated that progress. And then, the possibility of her going to AEW was a thing. That didn't come to fruition. So, I think right now with just kind of seeing how it goes, being patient, seeing if certain people are going to be there. Maybe the ID program isn't something for her. Maybe it's just a flat out, we'll sign you to NXT kind of a deal. Who knows? I'm going to put my faith in the powers to be in WWE. They seem to know what they're doing a lot better than I do. So I'm not going to be here saying what they should do. I'm just happy to say what they are doing, because this is really cool. I just wish they did it 20 years ago. Bobby asking my thoughts on the ID sign so far. I think for somebody like me, I know some of them by name a little bit, but I don't know a lot about them. So I think the wonderful thing is now that you're able to identify yourself who these people are, it's going to be fun to get to know them a little bit more. And now that they're on your radar, they're now closer to working for a company that you like to follow, that you like to support, like to watch. These could be people that you're going to see down the road. So if you're going to take time to invest in not only the company that you watch, but perhaps the talent that could be a part of it, it's going to be a great way to identify with these new talent. So I think that Chris Holt, thanks for joining on the Instagram. I appreciate that. That's my thought of the ID so far, and it's the people that are signed. Like, do I know a lot of them per se? No, but I'm very excited to see what I can do to know more about them. In fact, I didn't know a lot about Austin Theory and Evolve at one point, and now I think the guy's going to be a future world champion. I think he is an absolute blessing in disguise for not just WWE, but for pro wrestling. An amazing human being, and just somebody that always is working and striving to be better. And that's exactly what I appreciate. Another thing I want to talk about is that on Friday we saw the reunion of the original Bloodline. Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, Jimmy, and Jey Uso, all four of them stand in unification to end SmackDown with the wands raised, acknowledging that the Bloodline is back, the original Bloodline. And on top of that, the smoke is clearing up that at War Games, we are going to see Solo Sikoa. We're going to see Tonga Loa. We're going to see Tama Tonga. We're going to see Jacob Fatu take on Sami Zayn, Jimmy, Jey Uso, and Roman Reigns inside the structure. Now, a lot of people are going to say the next piece now is Paul Heyman. And you're probably right. But the one piece that we need to talk about is The Rock, especially when we talk Survivor Series. The Rock, I believe, made his debut at Survivor Series in 1997, I believe. And it'd be 96, actually. I know Chris Best is going to pop in right now. But anyway, Survivor Series has been good for The Rock. And the point is that The Rock, I believe, is going to make his presence felt at War Games as well. In what case and in what way, who knows? Will we see Paul Heyman? Again, we'll see. Who knows? All I know is I think we can just appreciate what we're seeing. I think there's a lot to it. And here's the thing. Just because the four of them reunited on SmackDown doesn't mean everything's A-okay. We're seeing a lot of change just in the persona of Roman Reigns. We're seeing Jimmy and Jey be a little bit more active in calling the shots. And we have Sami Zayn now standing his own ground and saying, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do whatever I want. Now, am I willing to be part of this and have it just like the good old days? Absolutely. But it's not going to be like the good old bad days. It's going to be the good old days. So it's going to be a very interesting thing, and obviously it does seem like it's going to be a very temporary thing. I can't see the 4-on-4 thing being 10 months, 12 months, 2 years kind of thing. I do think it's going to be more of a shorter term thing. So that is what I think of that thing. As that Cursus Hinge, thank you for coming. I always have an issue with your name, so if you want to let me know on the Instagram comments the proper way of saying that name, I appreciate it. But I also appreciate you just joining in and popping in and saying hello. What else can we talk about? Now, I want to ask everyone, what are our thoughts of just the pro wrestling scene in general right now? Because whether you're a fan of AEW, whether you're a fan of TNA, whether you're a fan of MLW, WWE, I think we all can agree how great pro wrestling is right now. Now, you can ask, why don't I talk about any other company? Well, here's the honest truth. I primarily just watch WWE. That is, for the most part, my pro wrestling that I choose to watch. Now, do I dislike anything else? No, I just don't have the time to watch everything. And as a kid, I grew up loving WWF. Therefore, I've stayed loyal to WWE, and now we are brought here. Yes, I do plan on hoping my kid watches WWE down the road. I hope he does. I whisper. Wife might hear me, and I don't want to get in trouble. But he takes great suplexes. He takes great bumps. Whether it's him or just me giving him a suplex on the couch, it's fun. I will say, I picked him up for a body slam. He has posted a lot better than most people I've trained with. I'm just going to say that. So, The genes are there. But that's beside the point. But yeah, I do want to take this as just an open time to say thank you to everyone who has helped in just by commenting, helped by supporting, helped by following, helped by liking, subscribing, all that stuff to the Chris Perish podcast. This is episode 50, and it's definitely a thing I'm not going to forget. I'm going to reflect a little bit. I appreciate kind of the growth that I've had since starting to do this more on my own. I'm very thankful for people like Turnbuckle Studios and helping me out and being that open-ended affiliation. Same thing with Rogue Energy as well, taking that time to allow me to be affiliated with them as well. Also, there is going to be another sponsor to the Chris Perish podcast by the end of this month. I will be officially unveiling that at Survivor Series. Well, we watch that live on site. So the Chris Perish podcast the next day, which I believe is December 1, you will find out more about it, and I will talk a little bit more at detail about it as well. Until then, I have to remain a little bit of the tight-lipped, but I couldn't even fathom just to see the growth, just the growth of my channels. I'm just very thankful for everyone who has helped out. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. And for that, I'm going to leave you guys off with something that I think is very fitting to everything, and that is a quote. Quote comes from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's important to be nice, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And I've learned that over the times of my time doing podcasting, doing these shows. So I appreciate everything that has come with it, whether it's the people I've met, whether it's the people I will meet, whether it's the opportunities I have, or if it's just the platforms that I get to do this on. It's all very much amazing to me, and I say thank you to every single one of you. But that is going to wrap up episode 50 of the Chris Perish podcast. I can't believe how quick this went today. It actually feels like it just flowed. So I guess I'm getting a little bit comfortable doing this. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate you guys. And remember, be yourselves, be happy, and always have fun. And remember, go Saints.
Rip through the clouds, faster, catch us from falling coast to